Very few games get to claim that they defined a genre, but in 1986 when Dragon Quest released, that's kind of what it did. It broke a lot of NES game standards and made RPGs approachable in an era where games were brutally difficult, long, and hard to get into, all while having an open world, a story, deep dungeons, all in under 51 kilobytes. Like, for perspective, this image of the box art is 171 kilobytes. And this game basically invented JRPGs, and its influence can be felt now and far into the future. And since I just traveled back in time, might as well reflect on a piece of gaming history and see how this game influenced the genre, what things it specifically did to actually set the standard and make these mechanics approachable for players, and see if it's any fun to play right now. And one of the first ways a game can define itself is through its presentation. So Toriyama's art style gave this game an identity you just didn't see in NES games at the time. And Koichi Sugiyama's music truly shines in this game. I think he composed a lot of this stuff very differently than a lot of composers do, because he came from a classical background. It was composed with an orchestra in mind, and so you can kind of hear it in the game. Oh, it's about as close as you can get. I don't know, I never know what to do with this. I guess I'll just go with Zombo. We, as in me, not you, are the descendants of Erdrick. Oh man, these fantasy names are gonna kill me. It's our job to stop the Dragon Lord because he's gone up and captured the princess and kind of spread monsters throughout the land. This is to say, he's not a very nice guy. The story itself is not particularly complex, but NES games at the time were not particularly complex story-wise. Most of the games around the early 1980s would basically just drop you in the world and say, good luck. If you wanted to find a story, read the manual. But Dragon Quest puts that story directly into the game because that's where people are gonna be experiencing the medium, and that's where the story should be. And it's pretty impressive because, I mean, again, it's 51 kilobytes. This game does not have a lot of space to work with. So starting out, the key gives us some gold, a magic key, and a torch. Thanks, Your Majesty. I mean, I get this guy's got a whole guard to pay, but seriously, are the taxes here that crazy? Like, you could collect a little more. I mean, you're the king. No one's gonna tell you to stop. I mean, a dragon stole your daughter and a curse has befallen your kingdom. You think you could give the guy, the hero, the heir of Erdrick, a little more gold. So I'm just wandering around the castle a little bit, talking to some of the guards, and this is kind of that era of video games where like basic mechanics that we take for granted really aren't as explained at the time. You know, talking to an NPC. Maybe people don't know that. A lot of other games, you just fight them. Or maybe they'll go into a room and then they'll be like, oh, here's the sword, and they'll just automatically talk to it. So a lot of times, a lot of the guards, you know, have the function of actually telling the player, hey, here's what you need to do, and give the player just some hints of where to go. And that's really gonna be kind of a thread throughout this game, is talking to NPCs. That's how you figure out what to do. We'll get into that though. And once you're in the overworld, it's not hard to miss. It's placed pretty strategically right there. And again, a lot of these things, it's kind of like already been explained to death already, but the first Super Mario Bros. Is a fantastic example of strategic level design. The first level of that game, they were very intentional with the way they place blocks to kind of like guide the player. Like, people may not know Goombas are bad. It'll kill you if you hit it. But if you jump, you can kill a Goomba. But how do you teach a player to jump without having a pop-up disrupt the gameplay? Well, you put these glowing question mark blocks. You're like, I kind of want to hit that, jump. So a lot of games back then really had to do non-direct ways to guide the player to get them to do the correct action. So in this case, having the town here is actually really smart, really strategic, because it's obvious where the player is supposed to go. Like, you can't cross the river to get to the other castle. You might as well go to the only other spot on the screen right here. And that's kind of like one of the things that I think makes RPGs so fun, is that the player gets to decide what to do. Once you get to Breckenary, I hope that's how you say it right, the NPCs actually give out a little more useful information. But more importantly, this town has the shop. And so the gear in the shop is like strategically placed as well. So the gold that the king gives you at the beginning of the game doesn't really make sense from a story perspective, but whatever. From a gameplay perspective, the gold that the king gives you actually kind of makes sense. You can only buy specific items in the shop. I'm like, am I gonna get a club? Or am I gonna get a shield? Am I gonna upgrade my armor? Can I get the best weapon, but then I'm gonna lower my defense? It's kind of introducing and getting the player to think, I have to really be strategic in how I play. Now, obviously, for first-time players coming into this, they may not be thinking strategically, but soon the game's gonna kind of make you think, oh, I might need this stuff. And trust me, you will. So the other thing about this game world is, that's the other thing about this game. It's got random encounters. So pretty common back in the NES days, where basically walk on a tile. I hope you know what random encounters are. It's a random encounter. It explains itself. The battle system is where I think this game also influence a genre, obviously, because it's turn-based. So rather than just basically hitting B and just slicing your way through enemies, you really have to think strategically on what you have to do. And early on, the game doesn't really ask much of you. Orange slimes, this dude, a homeless hooded figure, creepazoids, COVID bat, lots of really basic enemies. But as the game goes on, so do the enemies get more advanced. And the other thing too that's different about this game is that it's solely one-on-one. Battle system is primitive by our standards, but I think it does the job, and I think that it really makes something that maybe people have never really experienced this. It makes it really simple and easy. And early on, basically, attack. You just attack. However, the spell system allows for a deeper combat experience. Every couple levels, you unlock a new spell, such as Hurt, which hurts an enemy, and later on, you'll unlock Hurt More, which you'll never guess what that does. There's also utility spells like Sleep and Stop Spell, which makes it very obvious what they do. It's kind of comedic that the spell names are so simple, but I think it makes it very apparent what each spell does. Oh, and I haven't even talked about my favorite spell, the Subscribe spell. If you cast it, it'll make me really happy. See, look how happy I am. Did you cast it yet? Did you? Did you cast it? This image will go away if you do. Please cast it, please, I'm begging you. There goes my dignity. Early on, my health is so low. Ugh. And since you need to heal constantly, you'll need to battle enemies constantly, which is going to set up the main thing you're doing in this game, and that's grinding. And also, the other thing enemies drop is basically experience points and gold. The king's a cheapskate, but enemies apparently are carrying gold everywhere. Maybe, actually, you know, maybe that's why he doesn't have gold. Maybe the enemies have stolen all of it. Because like slimes have gold, bats have gold, even the homeless hooded man has gold. That's a conspiracy theory. Anyway, the other thing is that this game is also an open world, which is pretty impressive for an NES. You can basically just pick a direction and go there. The world is built in such a way that you literally have a direction you need to go, and it's gonna guide you in that direction. So if you're suddenly having enemies that are one-shotting you, you don't wanna go that way, obviously. And I think that approachability, the game not telling you where to go, leads to it also making it so that you have an experience with it. And when you have an experience with it, you're much more likely to have it stick with you. Like imagine if the game just said, you can't go there. No, that's not the way to go. It's nice because it guides the players who need it, but it lets players be free and doesn't punish them for doing things that they're not supposed to do. The other thing about this game too is it's got kind of like a pervasive loneliness feeling on it. The overworld theme feels somber and really captures that feeling of like a world overrun by monsters. And there's even dynamic music. And once you get into dungeons, the lower you go, the deeper and more eerie the music gets. And also, that's the other thing. Dungeons, well, they look like this. It's one of these things that are actually encouraging the player to really engage with the mechanics. The game gives you a problem. It's dark, you can't see. The game's not really telling you what to do. I'm sure there's an NPC that says it. You can also figure it on your own, and that's where looking at where the items come in. So you really want to be strategic in the towns you go to. There's a torch. Use a torch, boom, lights up. And later on, there's other ways to deal with it as well. There's a magic spell that you can get that'll actually light up the room for you. So it builds on these mechanics. Even though they're really simple by today's standards, these decisions that the player has to make makes just wandering around the world and exploring it really intentional. And I really think that's part of the reason why this game has left the legacy that it has. And when Dragon Quest released in the United States, they had Legend of Zelda. So like the concept of this probably wasn't super new, but in Japan, this released a couple years earlier. So being able to explore a giant world was probably groundbreaking. Oh, so another way this game makes you think strategically as well is limiting your inventory space. You don't have infinite space to just store stuff. Early on in the game, you can have tons of items. You can have like all the torches, all the healing potions, but as the game goes on, it starts giving you quest items. And you can't take those quest items out of your inventory, so your inventory actually gets smaller over the course of the game. I don't know if that makes it more fun or not, but it's kind of interesting. Later versions fix this if you're playing on not the NES version. I don't think this is the case. Although maybe I'm wrong. And one thing that I think influencing genre is that you don't have to knock it out of the park the first time. In fact, a lot of these things aren't even specifically original to Dragon Quest. A lot of these are taking inspiration from other games at the time. You had like Ultima, you had all these other RPG games, but a lot of these games either were bogged down with complicated systems that weren't really explained well, because again, it's old. Maybe you have to flip through an instruction manual to do that, but this game doesn't make you do that. All of these systems and all these things fit together really well and make it an experience that you can kind of play without a manual and play it today. So the other thing this game has to offer too is that you don't actually have to save the princess. At least not right away. And since the heir of Erdrick is noble, save her he must. Is that what he sounds like? Is he Yoda? The thing is that she's actually not difficult to find. You go to this cave, you can find kind of clues as well. You can kind of piece it together and where she's at, but you also can just kind of stumble upon her because she's in one of these caves that you actually have to get through. You go to this cave, go through. She's on this side, basically down here. I hope that makes sense. That makes sense, right? I hope so. And so she's guarded by a dragon, and he must be slain in order to rescue her. This dragon is basically one of the few bosses this game has, but he's essentially just a DPS and level check. Basically just I'm in combat. And since I've grinded enough, this guy's a breeze. Oh yeah, the other thing, once you beat her, or beat her, the dragon, maybe it's a female, I don't know. So once you actually beat him, you also have to drop the princess off back in the castle too. And after battling my way through open fields and around mountains, we finally return the princess back to the castle. And in return, the king gives us a gift. Ooh, I hope it's 200 gold. It shows how far you are from the castle. Okay. Thanks, king. Dap him up, dap the king up. Yeah. Ah. If you haven't pieced it together, Dragon Quest doesn't have like a quest system. The only way to figure out what to do next is to explore. And so let's, so you need to wander around to random towns and, you need to walk around random towns and talk to all the townsfolk. Yes, beat you, got it. But seriously, talking to townsfolk is essential to progressing. And while the dialogue they say isn't filled with as much personality as say later entries, it does help break up the monotony of this game. And that is desperately needed because it's so easy to slip into a vegetative state where you're just hitting fight, and now they're killed, and then you're done. Just over and over and over again. Like the player needs something to do. The overall gameplay loop is extremely simple. You basically walk around, talk to an NPC, and fight a dude. But the way these mechanics are built and stacked and mixed together and kind of having this mystery of, oh, but I don't really know what I'm gonna find next, kind of urges players to just keep going. There's something else around the corner. Maybe there's an item you can get. And the NPCs are constantly talking about these things that you need to find around the world. It's like, oh, I kind of want to find those things. What are they gonna do? In later entries, they have a lot more like character and a lot of fluff, but in this game, it's a lot more practical. It's like, oh, I'm gonna either give you a small bit of story like my family died to COVID bats, or oh yeah, this can make your life easier if you do this thing, but you still gotta find this thing. And so then it's like, oh, I've talked to an NPC on this town, they told me this one thing, talked to an NPC in another town, hey, wait a second, like you can start kind of piecing it together. And it really, again, is another one of those strategic things. You can really engage with this game. And the more you engage with it, the more you get out of it. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what to do at this point. So I'm in the southernmost town. Let's see. Let us wish the warrior well. May the light be thy strength. Thou may go and search from Tentacle Castle, travel 70 leagues to the south and 40 to the east. 70 leagues south. Oh, wait. And again, the items come back into play. I have to use that item that I was given to actually be able to track the specific location that was in there. So that means I gotta go right here. Sweet. 2 more to go. So there's this creepy old man that's living in this cave, and if I give him the silver harp, he'll give me the staff of rain. Oh, I don't know where that is though. I don't know where the silver harp is. Okay, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna look it up. So the harp is in, oh, Garen's grave in Garenham. Okay, so apparently some NPC in Breckenary gives out the actual clue to where you're supposed to find it. Well, let's be real. It's not very fun to walk around and talk to every NPC. Don't get me wrong. I think this game is actually pretty groundbreaking, but like, it's kind of tedious. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, I kind of want to see the end now. And now we need to set out for the final item, the Stones of Sunlight. This item is perilous to find. You will have to journey all the way to the starting castle and go here, talk to this old dude in the cellar. Lots of old dudes and cellars in this game, apparently, and caves. But with the 3 items, I can talk to this other guy hanging out in a cave, apparently, and he'll give me the rainbow drop. And with the rainbow drop in my hands, I can restore the bridge to the Dragon Lord's castle. I'll enter his castle. And there we go. This is it. And this final dungeon is a gauntlet. 8 floors, some of the hardest enemies in the game. And it's been great being on this journey and being able to replay this, because Dragon Quest didn't impact the genre by being the best. It's far from it. This game defined the genre by keeping it simple. Sometimes a little bit too simple. But that meant so many people got to experience this game, play it probably to completion, and actually get to share that experience. And I think that simplicity left a mark on people. And I think if you're feeling like in life that everything's already been done, I hope you remember Dragon Quest. Because I'm sure at the time, the gaming landscape probably felt the same way, that RPGs were complicated and too hard to get into, and that everything in that genre has already been done. But the first Dragon Quest walked, so games like Final Fantasy, Earthbound, and even the later Dragon Quest entries could run. And just remember, it's not too late to start. It doesn't need to be perfect. Dragon Quest definitely isn't perfect. Think about the impact you could leave. All you need to do is start. And I'm glad I started, and I'm almost done. Well, I'd actually have a ways to go had I not done some minor tweaks to save me some time. It's just small stuff, like turning off random encounters for the last dungeon and making so spells cost 1 MP. Look, this game is insanely hard to beat at level 19, so I can either spend a couple more hours grinding and gaining a couple levels, or I could just finish the game because this video's taken months to complete and I just kind of want to get it done. Do me a favor and pretend I'm super skilled and I did this all without cheating. Do me a solid here, please. Hello, Dragon Lord. It is I, the hero. Your end is nigh. The Dragon Lord wants me to join him? I mean, it wouldn't be an RPG without some player choice, right? And if you do choose to join him, the game gives you the bad ending. But no, me, I have honor. I am the heir of Erdrick. Throughout this journey, I have fought many enemies, learned many spells, and now I get to use the attack button because the Dragon Lord is resistant to magic. So the final battle is a little anticlimactic. The Dragon Lord revealed his true form? Wow, he's a dragon. Who would have thought? This is it. Begone, foul creature. Nope. Must be nearly there. Okay, foul creature, depart. Okay, next one will do it. Begone, foul creature. Begone, foul creature. Begone, foul creature! Come on. Yeah, okay. Yay! I did it. I guess with the Dragon Lord defeated, the enemies depart from the land. It's like a Lord of the Rings thing. His power's gone, they're all gone. They're like, oh, well, shoot. I guess we'll leave now. And now peace has returned to the kingdom. Our story might end here, but just as the game said, there are other roads to travel. And I've got some other roads to travel for you right here. And if you're watching this far, thank you. And if you actually liked it, there's a lot of other videos coming, so I'll see you in the next one.